Welcome to another episode of House of the Empire Live, right here on the Fandom Empire YouTube channel. I am your host tonight, Johnny V, and it is truly a pleasure to be with you wherever you are listening and watching from. Joining me tonight, as always, my usual colleagues, cohorts, and partners in crime. Randy, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, Monday as usual. About 10-hour day, but stressed as hell because now that I have a new vehicle that doubled my car payment from the last one. Yeah, that overtime's going to come in handy. But other than that, not doing too badly. Got to enjoy the fact that we got a new mall trailer, which I thought was actually really cool. I know we're going to go over it later, so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, man, just hanging in there as best I can.
This Monday do be Monday, and all right, Sean, how you doing tonight?
Muted, apparently. Um, Good start. Life's just kind of kicking you in the teeth at the moment, so I'm happy to be here, talking some fandom for an hour, enjoying some level of escapism, and I'm sure eventually our times for our shows will start to extend past that. I know last week went a little long. Not that I want to throw our buddy who's live over on IPC right now under the bus, but he's been a little more lengthy with the hosting than Johnny has in terms of keeping us in that 1 hour range. But I like the 1 hour, the 75-minute range. I missed the 2 hour show, but there's stuff going on right now, and about an hour is good. Although, I think I've done every form of live show just about possible. But tonight's a first. I am once again outside of Tim Hortons, where I thought I'd be enjoying some elevated temperatures and nice weather. And instead, I am parked in a snowstorm, where I can't see out my windows really at all. And the conditions here were whiteout conditions driving here, which did not exist about 15 minutes before I left. So just Mother Nature giving the big old fuck you, Sean.
Yeah, it was warm enough this afternoon that I was able to go out on the balcony in shorts and a t-shirt and not feel like I was freezing my balls off. So, March, lousy March weather. Simpson said it best. Dustin, how you doing this fine the existence of a Monday?
It's a Monday. I'm doing all right. I'm glad to be here. It'll be nice to talk some fandom stuff and some Star Wars and horror. It always makes the day at the end of the day to be able to talk some, like Sean said, some escapism. Sometimes life can be a lot, and it's nice to just break away for a little bit and have some time to chat with you guys. So I'm happy to be here tonight.
Could not agree more with that statement. Now let's get right down to the business. Like I said, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Everything from Star Wars to Halloween. Got a little wrestling at the end, assuming we have time. But we're gonna kick things off with
Oh,
last
no,
night
no,
was
no, 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 no. We're talking wrestling tonight.
okay. I mean, I'm just let the
And
record reflect. I'm the one saying I'm not the one saying that. Let the record reflect.
we're talking wrestling tonight, and it's not current stuff.
Oh boy,
It's something in the
not
past
current. Okay.
that I had a few hours to listen to, and I'm actually really itching to talk about it. So,
Well, I'm
um,
intrigued.
yeah.
Especially when you usually when the notes are like that light, it's a topic in case of time thing. It's not often you like pull the fog of war curtain down and be like, I got a topic and we're going to talk about it, but you don't get to know what it is. So I'm interested to find out what that is when we
I'll
get
give
there.
you this too. It's nothing relevant to the last 15 years.
Nothing relevant to the last. Just okay. So we're going to the. You know what? I'm not gonna keep doing this, or else we're gonna get rabbit holed and leave stuff off the top. So I'm excited for that, and we'll leave it at that. Last night was the Oscars. Now we're not gonna go deep dive into the minutia of the entire Oscars because that's not, that's not a rabbit hole we want to go down. Not when we have time for it like that either. But in the last few years, in the last decade or so, I'd say there's been a trend that has kind of been turned on its head. You know, for a long time, there were categories that just got no love at the Oscar time. Everybody knew it. Everybody expected it. You know, your sci-fi movies, it was special effects or nothing. Superhero movies, it was costuming and effects or nothing. Horror movies, same thing. That trend has kind of flipped on its head in the last decade or so. And Randy, you wanted to talk a bit about that tonight. So
Let me add this.
you can just take this wherever you want to take it.
So, as I started watching the Oscars last night, because I was just making dinner, you know, obviously the first thing that I see come up is, you know, Best Supporting Actress, which ended up going to Amy Madigan for Weapons. And I thought about it, I was like, wow, they're starting off with horror. Like the fact that we're finally getting and I saw a lot of the categories. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of horror movies in this. And lo and behold, horror took home 8 of the 24 categories last night. They had 26 nominations total, that's including the winners, but it blew my mind. It's like finally we're seeing horror get some love. Now, granted, these movies are all solid. They're all great. But I mean, obviously, it's really cool to see Michael B. Jordan get Best Actor for Sinners. Frankenstein apparently was extremely well received, but a lot of that stuff had to do with production, costume, makeup, production design, but still all wins there. Sinners obviously getting the most nominations. I mean, are we finally at a point in horror where directors and just story writers in general are finally taking it serious enough to try to build characters and give us something that transcends the typical slasher or the typical paranormal type movie? I mean, what do you guys think? Have we finally hit a spot with horror that is just kind of signaling that we're finally getting good stories out here? I mean, yes, we've had other movies through the years, but none of them as recognized as some of the stuff from this past year.
Dustin, you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to see that we're seeing a swing. I think that part of it has, I don't know how much backlash plays into it, how much they're listening, the awards. There has been, I remember myself, I didn't watch it. You know, I usually will find the list of winners and see what was nominated and go through it. I think back the time where I was like, this is completely bogus, that I realized that was back in 2008 when The Dark Knight didn't even get nominated for Best Picture. And I felt like, okay, the fact that this movie is probably one of the best superhero movies, action movies, it wasn't just a superhero movie, didn't get nominated. Heath Ledger did win, as he should have, for the role of the Joker. But I've always kind of felt like the Oscars were going to take they kind of go to the highbrow movies, the kind of, avant-garde stuff. And I mean, I think we've just gotten to a point where good directors and good stories are being written for horror, and it's coming out, and it's the elevated horror, right? Like Weapons was fantastic. Sinners was really good. I think we're just getting better movies in the horror genre. I don't think we're going to get stuff like for Scream or anything like that. There's plenty of garbage to go along with the really great. It is surprising to see that. It's good to see that. There needs to be a diversity. If a movie is truly good, no matter what genre it is, it should be able to get the recognition it deserves. Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Sean?
I think there are projects that come along that probably don't get the Academy recognition that they should, based on what genre it's in, and kind of like Randy was saying earlier, like, and even Dustin here, like The Dark Knight not only should have been nominated for Best Picture, it should have won Best Picture. I would argue, and Johnny's going to hate this one, The Dark Knight Rises probably should have been nominated. I'm not saying it should have
Or a
won.
Razzie.
Not saying it should have won. Saying it should have been nominated. One day we're gonna make Johnny do a watch party to that movie so he can point out all the things he didn't like about it. Might be a long list, and you might need a whole tree worth of paper. Anyways, I haven't seen Sinners. I've not seen Weapons. Both movies that I want to see. I've heard nothing but good things about both. But yeah, there's things that get the whole elevated horror rap to it, and people look upon it maybe not in the most kindness of eyes. And I would argue there's been a lot of elevated horror lately, including entries in the Halloween franchise that I would classify as elevated horror. And a lot of it is good. Like, I don't know who here has seen, like, Get Out, for example. Get Out was fantastic. What an incredible movie, and obviously an incredibly serious subject matter. But they're out there. It's just unfortunate that a lot of them don't get the recognition that they deserve. I'll tell you right now, a movie that got no recognition whatsoever is Doctor Sleep. And yes, I'm biased because I'm a huge Shining fan. I think it's the best horror movie ever made. But Doctor Sleep, specifically the director's cut, like that's a movie of the year type deal that, again, we've talked about for years on this channel. We want to do a watch party to, but just never gotten around to it. And I'll go one step further in terms of the Halloween franchise. Since we probably won't be saying very many kind things about her later on, I'll get one in now. Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween 2018. I think it's far and away her best performance in the series, and thought that it should have been at least worth consideration for a nominee in that role. I think that she did a lot of carrying that movie that she doesn't get credit for.
I think, for a long period of time, horror became, I don't want to say more than what it was, but it became less than what it was. Like the slasher era was the worst era for recognition ever. And I think that sort of pushed that narrative that, horror movies became about the how gruesome can you get. They weren't about the stories. And even the ones that were about the stories and were good story films didn't get any recognition. Like, we lament and, we talk bad about the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, but, I dare say The House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil Rejects are two of the best horror movies I've ever seen. And they get no love, outside of that. I think it goes back to Parasite. I think Parasite forced Hollywood to take a step back and be like, maybe there is something more to horror movies. And it did get that recognition. It won best film, and that's, I cannot think of another horror film that has ever done that, and it's a hard bridge. Like, I say this as someone who's just, not a voting member, but the Oscars have a certain degree of highbrow snobbiness to them, and you see that in the films they talk about for Best Picture. Like, it's never, like, when, in all honesty, when was the last time you can think of something even being nominated for Best Picture that was in the top 10 highest grossing in that year? And like, it's like, don't get me wrong, like, the Cannes Film Festival, you want to be the highbrow, hoity-toity, elitist film, great. That's what festivals are for. They're for that specific genre. But the Oscars are meant to be the best of the year. And you can't always be that by being a film that, makes its budget back in a little bit more. And it's not, I think for a long time the Oscars have not been a testament to what they should be. Like, if you look back in the history of the Oscars, like, for a long time, I'd argue up through maybe the 80s and the 90s, it was pretty accurate to what was good that year, to the great movies, to the great performances, and even the ones that, historically are great. But as we've gotten more and more forward, it's become more, and it's a direction that we're not so much taking this conversation, but it is an accurate direction that, the Oscars became, they tried to become more than what they were, in a sense. And that's not what the Oscars are about. It's about the best movies of the year, the best performances of the year. And horror never gets love in that category, even going backwards. Like, I think there are a lot of good to great horror movies in the 70s and 80s that should have gotten love in the Oscars. I look at something like Day of the Dead, and the George A. Romero movies. Like, they were groundbreaking in typing, and they got no love. It just, horror movies kind of got lumped into that category of, it's not artistic. And I could not disagree more. An artistic horror is fantastic. I wish, like, I think we could have broken the trend earlier if was it 92 it came out? It was early 90s, Tim Curry?
Yeah, I think it was 92 or 90. I think 91 or 92.
Early 90s, right? I think if that had been a theatrical release, I think it would have done a lot to break that trend, because I think that would have been a hard performance to deny, as far as the Oscars went. And I think that could have gone a long way to breaking this trend before it really had a chance to get going. And now, finally, people are realizing that horror is not just a bloodbath. It can tell a great story, and Parasite broke that trend, and I'm happy for it.
I think the last horror movie to win an Oscar, I think it was like Silence of the Lambs. I think that was one of the
even
last.
that, like, I personally, like, I know it's classed that, but I don't think of it as a horror film, personally.
Yeah, right.
I think of it more of as a thriller.
Right.
A psychological thrill, not so much a horror movie, but
it didn't West Best Picture, so it's
even Weapons. I would have considered more of a thriller. It's not a pure horror movie. I wouldn't call it that. I mean, even Sinners, like, if you've seen From Dusk Till Dawn, like, there's the blending of genres. It is a horror movie, but it's it leans into some of the other categories too, which makes it a little more open to, like, how many people are seeing it in word of mouth versus something that's going to be rated R or is more obscure. It's you made a good point, Johnny, about the whole fact that it's like, it seems like it was the Oscars or the the highbrow, like, we're doing this for us, and we're like giving each other awards what we based on performances and movies that are buzzworthy but may not necessarily have been the best movie. And it's very
Crash. Sorry, what?
That's all right.
No, I mean, it's, we'll see as time goes on. Hopefully the trend stays intact and horror movies do get the love going forward. But, it's, time will tell. The ebbs and flows of the Hollywood elites tell you what the Oscars are going to be about. So,
it's trending in the right direction, because you got to figure, in the past, what we'll say 10 years, you've had movies like Get Out, The Substance, having nominations, obviously with Sinners and Frankenstein this past year. That shows that, now granted, it also shows that Netflix can churn out some bangers even if they don't get really released in theaters. I'm so sad for you, James Cameron, but feature film is a feature film.
But Netflix is ruining Hollywood.
I think Hollywood ruined Hollywood.
I could not have said it better myself. All right, let's move forward. This is a topic we'll come back to every year around this time for the most part. Let's get into Star Wars. There isn't so much a lot to really parse and break down and talk about. So I don't want to say we're going to be more light on this one, but we'll be a bit more light on this one. All right, we are just about a month and a half, 2 months away from Mandalorian and Grogu. And some things are starting to trickle out more and more. The one that has come out in the last week is a reported runtime. And can I just say, I did not know this until I read the notes that Sean sent me. And when I read this, I don't want to say my stomach dropped, but I was not a fan of reading this number. 2 hours and 20 minutes reported runtime for Mandalorian and Grogu. Is anyone excited about that length for this film?
Look, if we thought that this was going to be a bigger universe type film that wasn't going to feel like just season 4 or a random episode of Mandalorian and Grogu, it had some major stakes it was going to tackle. And again, it could still have those things, but it's my belief it really doesn't. And I'm usually the guy lobbying for the longer Star Wars movie, by the way. This felt like the perfect Star Wars movie to come in there at like an hour and 50 minutes to 2 hours tops. And so if there's not more substance in this movie, and they have also pushed the runtime to 2 hours and 20 minutes, which does them no favors box office wise, by the way. I don't know. Like, I'll reserve judgment till I see the picture, but if there's a serious lack of substance in this movie and it's 2 hours and 20 minutes long, eek.
Randy, Dustin, either you guys? Brief
So-
thoughts on this one?
I mean, as far as the runtime goes, I guess it doesn't bother me as much because that seems to be like a typical Star Wars movie. Like, if you think about like from the original trilogy, those are not exactly short movies. And then, of course, when they got re-released in '97, when I was back in college and going to see them with all their special edition glory, having scenes added in and things like that. I mean, obviously the runtime ran up a little bit there too, but again, I mean, most Star Wars movies don't go under 2 hours. It's definitely a rarity. So it really doesn't faze me much. Obviously, I'm going to wait to see how I feel about the movie after seeing it. And I'm just kind of hoping I'm pleasantly surprised. I want to be at least cautiously optimistic, regardless of the runtime. Obviously, if it's just slow and in spots, then yeah, the runtime is a concern. But other than that, it's a wait and see proposition.
Dustin?
Yeah, I kind of agree with the wait and see approach. Like, could it be good? Could that be a good sign? Yeah. If it ends up being satisfying and they have a story to tell that justifies that runtime, sure. If they don't, I'm sure afterwards, especially a movie it seems to, from the lack of marketing or for what they've put out, it just seems more like a more kid-friendly type movie. And I could be wrong. Maybe they'll push that envelope a little bit, but I think that hour 50, 2 hour would have, even then, if you're trying to get kids to sit and watch the movie, I guess they'll watch it anyway. But it's one of those things. Could be good or it could end up hurting the movie depending on how it ends up shaking out. I'm sure we'll be talking about it like, oh, it needed that time to breathe, to develop the story, or we'll say, hey, they could have cut out 30 minutes from this and made it a much smaller film runtime and would have made it a better experience. So it's one of those things you just kind of have to wait and see.
Yeah,
It's a long movie. It's longer, I think, than The Last Jedi, which I wish
definitely
had no runtime, but
it's definitely too long for me. I think more so because there's nothing to this that's exciting to me. Like on paper anyway, this is not the film I want to be 2.5 hours long. If this had been Starfighter and we were saying that one's going to be 2.5 hours, I'd be like, okay, there might be something here. Because like just from what we know about the story and the players involved, I am much more confident in their ability to do this. Whereas this one, I have no confidence. I hope to come out of this movie just being able to say it was fun, and that's a satisfying experience for me. Like I'm not going into this with the expectation of greatness. like I went into, say, episode 8, with that high expectation and high bar. I'm not a fan of this length. I realize that, that's kind of the way Star Wars has been trending in the modern era. I mean, Rogue One is the shortest of the modern movies at 133 minutes. And, parse that length to The Last Jedi being 152 minutes. Like, it's just, yikes. I'm not excited about the length because I'm not excited about the film. Like, that's the problem I have going into this. But we'll see. It's a couple of months out. Hopefully this is the least of our worries. Hopefully this is the worst of the things to come out of it, being like, yeah, it was a little long. If that's the only negative I come out of this film with, yeah, it was a little long, I will, praise everyone involved in this. Because I think there's much worse things about this. Let's move on to the other piece of Star Wars news relating to Mandalorian and Grogu before we get to the Maul trailer. Empire magazine this past week, guys. I can't help but laugh at this. In the recent edition of Empire magazine, they are quoted as stating Pedro Pascal was on set for the majority of the filming of this movie. Now, I realize Pedro Pascal is a very popular fella, and I realize he has managed to do a lot of things in Hollywood that I think are truthfully impossible. However, being on set of this film while simultaneously filming Doomsday? Wow, guys, I did not realize Pedro could be in two places at once. That's an amazing testament to his skill. Because as much as I remember, the filming of these two films lined up pretty similar. So I don't know. I think it's the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard. I can't say that. That's a gross overstatement, but I think this is a ridiculous statement from people who should know better, especially in this day and age. You could have got away with this even 20 years ago. You could have got away with a comment like this where we wouldn't know any better, But now, in the modern age, with, paparazzi as it is, where every person with a cell phone is paparazzi now, like, come on, do better. Be honest with us. Don't lie to us. And that is what you've blatantly done by telling us he was on set for a majority of this, when we know damn well he wasn't even in the same country for a majority of this filming. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I unless something were to have come out to say that he was actually stepping up and doing more of the actual scenes in the armor, which hasn't been the case, and I'm pretty sure is not the case for this. It's kind of clear that their whole idea, Pedro Pascal's had kind of this huge surge in his career. He's been in everything, right? Last of Us and all these different movies, and I think they are using that to make people think, oh yeah, like he's there, he's their draw, he's their star. And I mean, other than having Sigourney Weaver be mentioned, like, it may have one or two scenes, we don't know, that is their main draw. And I think they're trying to, okay, so he was on set. Was he just hanging out? Was he not filming and just watching what was going on set? Was he just, eating some food and hanging out and in between takes? I can't imagine that, based on with Doomsday and the filming and all the stuff that has been reported going on with that and the filming issues and how much he has in that movie, right? I'm sure we don't know how much he's going to play a part in Doomsday. It's just kind of like bait and switch. It just feels like they're trying to hype something up to draw up some enthusiasm and some hype for the movie, because it's really the only big name star attached to it.
Yeah, that was me blowing my brains out figuratively. To be clear, they actually do try to make it out as if he's in the armor most of the time. Which he's not. He's not. He not only And we reported this on this channel. Johnny, Randy, and I talked about this at fucking length, people. Length, and not just us. Not just us. Sports Illustrated said it. Oh, wait, no, that's Becky Lynch's thing. Bespin Bulletin. You know, making Star Wars hasn't really been around publicly for a couple of years. But Bespin Bulletin, the number one Star Wars source there is for information, him and Jeff Snyder. Both of them, not one of them, both of them said that there was like this 8 or 9 day filming sequence that had to be done before principal photography. And that was all Pedro Pascal was a part of. He was not even a part of the principal photography of the film at all. Zero. Zip. Why do you think when the trailer finally came out, I think Randy might have been the first person that was like, oh, well, they probably used up all Pedro's scenes in the trailer. Yeah, because that's kind of what it is. And it's just like, and to be clear, I'm not shitting on Empire because it's Lucasfilm feeding them this information, to be clear. But like, don't fucking lie and insult your audience's intelligence. It's fucking brutal. You are a piece of fucking shit. I'm sorry, Lucasfilm PR, that's where you are. You've been a piece of shit for a long time. You continue to be a piece of shit. Hence the fucking terrible fucking Hoth commercial thing you did at the Super Bowl, which was a complete fucking flunk, and then you tried to defend it just to be like 3 weeks later, you know what, maybe that wasn't a good idea and didn't resonate with people. No shit. Like, oh, it's so brutal. Like, you can't trust anything that comes out of this company. You know, we were talking about weapons earlier. Zach Krieger, guy from Whitest Kids You Know, hot name, doing the new Resident Evil movie, gonna have nothing to do with the games. And he made a point of being honest to the audience. He wasn't like, oh, it'll have a little something to do with the games, and you know, we're gonna do this from the game, or it's inspired by that. He made very clear it's a new original story. He got right out in front of it and told the truth, knowing there would be some heat against it. And you know what? There are more people excited for this upcoming Resident Evil movie than there have been previous entries of the Resident Evil movies. And obviously, the success of Weapons certainly helps with that. But you know what else helps? Being honest with your fucking audience. Okay, if I allow myself to continue, we're going to go way over time, and we're already running behind, so I'm shutting the fuck up.
Keep going the way you're going, you probably give yourself another heart attack. Good Lord. We don't need to have that on camera.
We don't need to have that, period.
Yeah, pretty much. As far as the article goes, obviously it's just meant to try to bring in the more of the casual fans. I think that's what they're trying to do. Now, whether it succeeds or not is yet to be seen. But yeah, anybody who's pays attention to this and follows it, we all know the truth. And now, granted, those of us that do follow it are diehard enough in terms of Star Wars fans that we will still go see the movie regardless of what is being said in articles. I do believe that, you know, it's stupid to do that. It really is. I'd rather them be honest, but I'm not making a movie. They're not paying me millions of dollars to do this shit. So I'm not going to go to the lengths of a rant, but you know, it's a bullshit tactic to get more butts in the seats. And I mean, that's pretty much all it really is.
Yeah, and I do think Sean made a good point. I think it's definitely Lucasfilm has more to do with the blame here than Empire, because if they're feeding them this information and they don't know any better to say, like, oh, you know, maybe the person they were talking to about this story, they don't know the ins and outs that, you know, most casual people are not going to know that. Even if you watch Mandalorian season 1 through 3, they think Pedro Pascal is doing all the scenes. So the average person may not know this. So you would think that maybe Empire would do a little more digging on their side and say, like, well, or push back. But again, who knows who they were talking to, and you know. But I think it's more on Lucasfilm for pushing that narrative, which is BS to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure whoever took the quote was just kind of giving them that, "Are you sure about that?" look. Like, they know better, but they're going to report it because, well, let's be honest, it's going to do more good than bad for Empire, because they're not the ones people are going to come after for these comments, because they're just reporting what you tell them. And they're not going to, never step on your opponent when he's stepping on his dick, and that is what the PR machine is doing for this movie. They are stacking L's, and it is not a good look. But we will continue talking about this more and more as we go. All right, guys, we got the mall trailer today. I don't want to go too in depth on it because it is a topic we're going to be talking about a lot as we get closer to the series itself. But briefly, what did you think when you saw this trailer? What I don't want to say pick one part of it, but like, what is the one thing that stood out most to you coming out of this trailer? Whomever wants to go first can.
I mean, I'll take a pass real quick. I think the the action scenes, I think the lightsaber fights, the action sequences look like they're really well done, and I was just super excited to see them, lean into that frantic kind of. It looks pretty visceral. It looks like they're. I mean, even with animation, I was pretty surprised that they were kind of showing some of the just more brutal attacks from Maul. And I love Maul, so I'm all for any kind of story with him and talking, about bringing the Empire down and seeing the side of the story we didn't know. So I really enjoyed the trailer. It has me. I know Randy felt similar in the chat. It looks really. It has me excited.
Yeah, the trailer was basic. I mean, I know we'd seen like the teaser, but this being the full blown trailer, kind of giving us an idea of the story and everything. It was really well done. It didn't give away too much. It gave us some stuff we know they're going to deal with. I thought it was very intelligent to show that Inquisitors it went after Force users in general. It wasn't just the Jedi. And that it's an Inquisitor that we're familiar with if you've watched Tales of the Jedi. So it has me excited. And Sam Witwer is always great as a voice actor, and I know how much he loves the role of Maul. So he's going to put his all into it. I'm definitely hype, and it comes out on my birthday, so it's even better.
Sean?
Make my car windows visible. It sucks out here. So I just think everything they've done marketing wise, aside from the crappy posters that just are the typical Disney Plus shit, looks incredible. Like, in my opinion, the best foot they've put forward into an animated project in a long time. And I like the tail stuff. They've been fun little shorts. I was not a Bad Batch fan, but there was obviously some big gains they made there in the animation department. But I really think that everything that this show has shown so far is, and I don't know that they're going to this planet per se, but like anybody who's played Knights of the Old Republic 2 or the Old Republic, it had more so Knights of the Old Republic 2 than the Old Republic, but it has like that gangster criminal underworld feeling to it that I think people thought we were going to get with Book of Boba Fett that we really didn't. That feels like Nar Shaddaa out of the Knights of the Old Republic or the Old Republic games. And being on those planets on that planet always felt that way. And this feels like that in spades. But it also feels like, hey, we don't know how this thing's going to turn out at the end. But it sure as hell feels like that they have pulled from the George Lucas sequel trilogy story that he wanted to do, and Maul and his Twi'lek there. Obviously, her name is not Darth Talon or Talon yet. Again, yet. The fact that the character looks the same and is a very talented Jedi of the past, I guess you could say, or an apprentice of the past. Even though this was short, their dynamic was definitely on display in this trailer.
Yeah, I mean, I visually I love the look. I thought it looked fantastic. Like Sean said, I was not a Bad Batch fan. I hardly watched any of it. I just didn't enjoy the story. I didn't enjoy the characters. Nothing about it did a good job of sucking me in. But the look is great, and this looks fantastic. And the thing that stood out to me the most was the voice acting. From the different, you expect it from most of the cast that they've put together for this thing, but for me, the standout, I'll admit, I haven't been quite as deep and well versed in this project as I have in other things. But anytime you can do an animated project and you hear a voice that you actually stop and be like, "Holy shit, is that who I think that is?" And you hear it and it is, and you get excited from that, is a great thing for this. And for me, that was this. Dennis Haysbert, my God, that man's voice is just liquid honey to me. Like, I just love it, like it's, oh, I got so excited when I heard that voice. And seeing the rest of it and seeing the character interactions and the things like that, I love this trailer. That's not to say it was perfect, because the second they called it a laser sword, my brain blew up a little bit. Because I could understand that in the modern era where nobody's seen a lightsaber in decades. Luke has one, and that's really the only major example in the galactic scale of a lightsaber. But this is coming out of the Clone Wars era. We are in between Clone Wars and New Hope and the heat of the rebellion. People should know what a lightsaber is still at this point. And I think it blew my mind a
where the
little
planet
bit.
is and how far
That's
away.
valid. Story-wise, it might make perfect
happens,
sense.
It
Once we
happens
get
in the
to
movie.
True, very true.
Do you remember which character calls it a laser sword? I do. This would be a good trivia question. I don't know if I should give the answer.
Yeah, I'd say pocket that one because I'm drawing a blank here, but I will be Googling it before our next trivia just so that I'm not caught flat-footed.
Brandy, do you know it?
If memory serves me correctly, it happened in episode 1.
It does. So you do know it. Okay.
See, I was thinking episode 2, so I was not even in the right film.
It's a very popular character that says it too.
I'm gonna go down a limb and guess Watto.
Way more popular than Watto.
Well, this is also you talking about popularity, and I know you have an unhealthy obsession with that man. So,
Darth Jar Jar.
Look, I'll just give it away because Brandy already knows the answer to it. If Anakin Skywalker can call it a laser sword, I think we can give these people a break.
No, he's a child. On a backwoods planet. It story-wise, it might make sense. I'll say that.
Look, Kira, Johnny.
Once we get to it, it might make sense contextually. In a trailer, I hated it. But like I said, in the story, contextually, once we get to it and actually hear it, assuming it's actually a line in the project, then it might make perfect sense. But avoid the creatures of the mist, okay? But no, I mean, that's the only thing that kind of pulled me back and made me go, no, you did not just say that. Mostly because I don't remember Anakin saying it in this film. But then again, it's in episode 1, and I have done my best to forget most of that film except for the pod race and the battle at the end.
And might I say, with the trailer, the remix of Duel of the Fates that played through all that.
Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss.
I feel like this show, once it's come and gone, is going to be, and who knows if there's more than one season. I hope there will be if it's good. But if it is good, I can see us just being like, oh, man, that's it. 10 episodes, 5 weeks, and we're done already.
Just off the trailer, it's doing an amazing job of the promise of Darth Maul that was made to us in Solo. And that excites me because that is, without a doubt, the biggest sort of loose string we have in Star Wars for me in my viewing experience. Like, what happened between that and when we saw him again in Rebels? But I digress. Like I
Sold
said,
car insurance. It's true. It's true.
Darth Maul went into car sales.
He wouldn't have done a trilogy of films if he didn't get certain things.
Well,
wait, no, that's a different article.
Yeah, that's next topic. You're getting ahead of the book. All right.
It's a different trauma.
I see what you did there. All right, we're going to segue that into our next topic wonderfully, I think, here. And that is going to bring us up to things said by Jamie Lee Curtis this past weekend relating to the Blumhouse trilogy of Halloween films that we saw. This past weekend, do you know who she said it to? You didn't attribute a source, just that she said it.
I don't remember. It's been all over the place.
Okay. But anyway, this past weekend, Jamie Lee Curtis said, if you want to find the source, I'm sure you just Google Jamie Lee Curtis Halloween. You'll probably find it somewhere very quickly. We did not, unfortunately, note the source. I'll try and Google it while we're talking about it, see where the original source is. Anyway, Jamie Lee Curtis this past weekend said she would not have willingly signed up for a trilogy of movies. She was skeptical to begin with, due to Blum's formula of making films and trying to do it on the extreme cheap. She only agreed to do the subsequent 2 films if Blum helped her to get other movies made and allowing certain people to get jobs on staff for the film. So I'm going to save you to the end for this one. Randy, what do you think about this?
I think that it kind of sort of makes sense, crazily enough. And I looked it up. She said that was a report on Variety that came out about that. Yeah, it's a shame that that she had to try to make concessions just to do a trilogy. But honestly, I think we would have been good with one and done. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like Halloween 2018 was probably good as a standalone film, and I think we all felt that way until we knew there was more coming. And I'm sure when she read the initial script, that's probably how she felt as well. But does it surprise me that they're trying to make some of these movies on the cheap? No, because slasher films usually are done on the cheap. So it's a bummer. But what can you do? It's said and done now. At least we got a couple of decent movies out of that. But yeah, it's a shame. Like I said, it's a shame she had to try to, get people jobs just to agree to do something. It's kind of shitty, but I guess that's Hollywood. I mean, no one fucking tells the truth anyway anymore. It seems like doesn't matter what genre it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say that just seems like par for the course, where it was like, okay, hey, I'll do this, but you're gonna take care of me and help me out with this other stuff. Honestly, she could have been. I think the movies would have served better had she not been in them. 2018, sure. Again, she was very good in that movie. She didn't really have a whole lot to do in Halloween Kills, and in Halloween Ends. It's such a drastic change for her character. It doesn't seem like the same person. I know story-wise they were trying to go for her finally getting over it, but I think it would have been they would have actually been served better had she either died in the probably died in the first movie, and focus more on Allison and her story. So it doesn't surprise me that this happened. And I mean, I don't know if she got also some creative control or some say in movies 2 and especially in 3, and so yeah, not surprised, but I think they probably could have done without her. But yeah, it just seems like it's been so long since those movies came out. It's kind of just been like, moving past it.
We'll come around to Sean and let him off his leash here in a second, but I dug this up. And I dug up the Variety article. It was at a South by Southwest panel where Jamie said this. If not now, when? If not me, who? Pivoting and manifesting was the name of this panel. That's a mouthful. A specific quote: "The only reason I'm sitting in this chair today is because of Jason. Jason, who runs Blumhouse, is the one who brought back the Halloween movies. However, when she got the call, she thought it was one movie and didn't hear until way later that they were planning to do more. If they had come to me and said it's going to be a trilogy, I don't think I would have said yes." Jason Blum is, in this direct quote, "Jason Blum is notoriously cheap. How do you make low budget movies? You don't pay people. That's the model." While we were editing and doing the mix, David said, "You know it's a trilogy?" I was like, no. I went to Jason Blum and said, "I have some ideas. Maybe you could give me a first look deal. Just pay me a little money." I said to Jason, "How about a little development deal?" And I owed him 2 Halloween movies, so what was he going to say? Curtis wanted the extra money to pay Russell Goldman, a filmmaker who was working with her to try and get Mother Nature made. Goldman now works in development for Curtis's Comet Pictures. He's making his directorial feature debut at South by Southwest with Sender. Jason Blum gave me a vanity deal, she said, referencing an earlier moment of the conversation where they discussed how every actor takes the producer credit differently. She added that Blum likely never expected she'd then call him for multiple projects. For example, Curtis heard an NPR story about a school bus driver and teacher who saved 22 children and said she wanted to produce it. This year, the Apple TV film The Lost Bus is nominated at the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. Later in the conversation, the moderator brought up the Academy as seemingly finally respecting the horror genre, the massive amount of love for Sinners. Curtis noticed that although she is a scream queen, she doesn't love the drama. She doesn't love the genre, but she can have a major appreciation for it. "I'm in love with the independent filmmaking aspect of the genre." Adding, she's so thrilled to see how diverse it has become, showcasing different genders and sexuality, or how she puts it, I'm not going to finish that sentence because it's political. So because of that, the genre aspect, I appreciate it and I owe my life to the genre, but I don't have to pretend to you that I'm a genre girl and that I love it. That's it in full. So, we get it out there on the table. Sean, you put this in the notes. You said you have a rant, so I'm going to turn it over to you and just let you run with this topic.
Everybody get your popcorn ready.
So let me start off by saying Jamie Lee Curtis is a tremendously talented individual who has a catalog of work that speaks for itself more often than not. She is also a lying, conniving, two-faced, power-hungry fucking bitch. And by the way, those words aren't mine. And no, Sports Illustrated did not say it. People on the set of Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends said it, which is why we had so accurate reporting on both of those movies. Look, the original pitch for Blumhouse's Halloween trilogy was not one movie, people. No, 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 no. It was 2. It was supposed to be 2 from the very fucking beginning. And McBride and Gordon Green had to be talked off of a ledge to just do 1. And then what was 2 became 1 and then became 3. The idea that Jamie Lee Curtis did not know is complete and utter bullshit. Just saying. Hey, all the power to her if she used it as a negotiating tactic. That's her right. But also, it's nauseating to sit here and listen to her go on about the only reason she did the other 2 films was to get a first look deal and, to be able to make her other projects through Blum and then get, the other guy the job there or whatever. And it was a lot more than just that one guy, by the way, that she was able to finesse into jobs, specifically in the other 2 Halloween movies, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. But don't let her fool you into that was the only reason. She got points on the back end of all 3 movies, which, if you don't remember, were wildly successful financially. She was incredibly well paid for those movies. And like to a very, very, very big number for horror movies. She was compensated in every way possible. And as Dustin mentioned earlier, she didn't just get some creative control. She got a ton of fucking creative control. It was her that made clear that she was going to have a smaller role in Halloween Kills. Okay. That is simply just a fact. There was a plan originally with that movie where she was going to have a bigger role, and they filmed for about 8.5 days with her for Halloween Kills, and many of those days were not full days. She barely made herself available for that picture and still got points on the back end for a movie that made over 9 figures at the box office. And then with Halloween Ends, okay, that movie was at one point in time going to be a very different movie, which they've all come out and admitted to. And she's admitted to this too, almost like cockily admitted to this, arrogantly admitted to this, where she has said that, she read the script and what the original story idea was for Halloween Ends, and she pulled the Hulk Hogan. That's not going to work for me, brother. She turned down so much fucking shit with that movie. Had that movie delayed, by the way, too, not in terms of its release date, but in terms of the shooting schedule. And they were changing shit right up until shooting on that movie, which I get it's not super uncommon during Hollywood. But originally, her character was going to die earlier in that movie, passing the torch off to Allison, which should have been done in previous movies, as Dustin mentioned, and allowing Allison to have the big moment with Michael Myers at the end. And yes, originally Michael Myers didn't get run through a meat grinder. No. Originally, Michael Myers for Halloween Ends faded away, as in he survived to live another day to set up potential stories. But no. Laurie Strode had to go over in a 2.5 or 3.5 minute fight, whatever it was, at the end of the film, which they marketed the whole film about, by the way, the big showdown between Laurie and Michael, even though it's barely in the fucking thing. Just disgraceful all around. She got super well paid for that movie, for all 3 of those movies. And she's basically pulling the Lucasfilm fucking lion out of her teeth. And I cannot stress this enough. She should never, ever be involved in a Halloween movie again for the rest of time. There's no need for it. And I wish I could sit here and say she's not going to be involved in behind the scenes capacity, but I cannot guarantee it. And that makes me sick to my stomach.
I mean, I remember back at the time, right from the jump when we first heard about this project, that it was always for multiple films. And you're right. I distinctly remember the process.
Breathes at the end of the credits, people. Go watch 2018. Play it through to the end of the credits. And how does the movie end? The last piece of sound you hear is Michael Myers fucking breathing. Oh, you know what? They did that just to not make another movie.
Well, I think she's acknowledging them in the process. By the time they were editing, she knew it was multiple. So, but I mean, I digress. I remember even before, like, if you go back all the way to the beginning when this was first announced, I remember this.
One more thing, Johnny, before you continue.
Mhm.
The original ending for Halloween 2018 is not the ending they went with, which I love, by the way. That the ending of that movie is perfect. But the original ending is the 2 of them get into a fight outside, and Michael walks off by where the mannequins are and shit, and is struggling breathing, but he walks off. He's, instead of you having to wait to the end of the credits to know he's alive, while shooting the fucking movie, she knew he was gonna be alive at the end. Like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I remember from the jump this being 2 movies. Like from the time Danny and company came on board, it was 2 movies, and then it was 1, and then the pandemic happened, and then it was 2 became 3. So like, I mean, I don't know, like to say that at any point in this process she thought it was only 1, like I believe that it is possible that when first being approached, she was was led to believe that it was 1. By the time contracts were signed, you don't accidentally sign on for multiple films without noticing. Not as someone who's been in the business for as long as she has. So I do not in any way believe that this caught her off guard at that point.
This is
like
the woman who, while filming Halloween H2O, knew she did not kill Michael Myers at the end of that film and had reluctantly signed on to do a small 1-day part in Halloween Resurrection. And then she went out publicly for those 3+ years going, like, lying about it eventually. It's like, oh, I don't trust a word that comes out of that fucking woman's mouth.
Yeah, I don't, I gotta laugh when I read this one in the notes. I'll say that much. All right, guys. Let us move forward. That's it. For Halloween. We are a little over an hour in. Sean?
So we won't get to spend as much time on this topic as I would have liked to, but hopefully we can start today and come back to it.
It's a historical topic. We can revisit
again
it
in a couple of weeks. But I just watched/listened to this documentary of sorts, recap of sorts, on the WCW invasion
Oh boy.
period. Which, I mean, despite how it was handled, it had a lot of hype.
It's the biggest boondoggle in the history of our sport.
For sure. 100%. But the stuff that you fucking learn and stuff that I didn't know, and I wish I'd taken notes before coming into tonight, because I'm sure I'm going to forget so many of the things that I wanted to bring up. But, like, for example, one of the things that I did not know about was they actually wanted to continue to run WCW as a company/show.
Yep.
And I thought to myself, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, now, if you did it properly, I suppose there's a world that could have worked in. But the other thing I didn't know is they had the ability, if they had wanted to buy out any of those other wrestlers' contracts. All the good guys, or I shouldn't say good guys, I'll use that term loosely. But there's so much about that I was unaware of and in the dark of. And I think it'd be a really cool thing to do some Patreon content about and react to it. And, what a fucking Rise of Skywalker level failure with the handling of all of that. And basically, Johnny, I wanted to bring it to you first and then Randy. What are, without getting too long in the tooth here, a couple of the biggest fumbles where they went wrong, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I think like the easiest one to point to is that they didn't bring over any of these super big names. But I don't want to say disagree with that point, but I would say like, yeah, sure. Would it have been great to, from the jump, have Goldberg and Flair and Sting there. Absolutely. I think Sting is the biggest one that they should have brought over. But I think the thing for me that they fumbled the most was the guy who managed to take the pro wrestling world by shock and awe and become one of the most popular names of the late 90s. I'm talking about Diamond Dallas Page. That guy got over insanely strong in an era of WCW that was impossible to do. He became bigger than the company in a certain way. I mean, the guy was chosen to be the WCW star of the movie, Ready to Rumble. And yeah, okay, that was kind of a thing in and of itself, but like he got so over and they fumbled so hard. Looking back, even DDP tells this story to himself. When Vince called him and brought him in for the pitch meeting, his biggest regret is not standing up and saying, "Call me when you're ready for People's Champion versus People's Champion." I wish he had. I wish he had looked Vince dead in the face and said, "When you're ready to run me versus Rock, you call me. Until then, I'm going home." And I wish he had, because that could have been the biggest angle of that whole invasion. Like, DDP was rife to start. Like, if you look of all of the debuts of everyone from the invasion time period in that, spring and early summer 2001, he was the one that got the pop, and it was the worst angle of the entire fucking thing. Like, he came in as the stalker, stalking Taker's wife. Like, it was the ridiculously stupidest thing possible, and the fans still got hot because it was DDP. If he had showed up and hit a diamond cutter on the Rock and left, it could have been fucking huge. And they didn't do it. And I mean, even coming into feud with Taker still could have been great. You couldn't get Sting, so DDP is the next man up. That's fine. But the angle was shitty. He should not have been a stalker. That was the stupidest thing possible. And they
did absolutely nothing with him. Absolutely nothing.
They fumbled everything. I understand, from a point of view of we're the victors, we have to be the winners. I understand. You survived that period in 96 through 98 where, it was, you were one or two bad decisions away from going out of business. And you survived that, found something, came out of the other side stronger, and were the last man standing. I get that, but Jesus Lord, that whole angle was terrible from the jump. I know looking back on it that it was destined for failure. The second Brad Kellner pulled the plug on TV for WCW. That was it. It was done at that point. They should have just stopped trying. But they didn't. They kept going, and they brought in the invasion guys, and they tried to do the angle and make it. It was terrible. Too many guys chose to sit on the sidelines and collect their WCW money, which, don't get me wrong, I'd have done the same fucking thing. If I'm any of those guys I named earlier, Hogan, Sting, Flair, Goldberg, all those guys, I'm collecting my WCW money. I'm not taking the buyout, because the buyout was 5 to 10 cents on the dollar.
Do me a favor. Name the WCW team, the Alliance team from Survivor Series.
From Survivor Series? Yeah. Well, by that point, you had the Alliance, so it was ECW and WCW. Yep. It was Austin, RVD, Booker T, Kurt Angle?
Yep.
And Shane McMahon?
Yeah. That's the Alliance team. Are you fucking kidding? Even without the big names you brought in, had you used people properly, RVD absolutely should be there. Now, the Dudley Boys were on the original Alliance team, but they could have been in that match. Kane and Undertaker in that match. I'm not saying that they're the same level, but it's the Dudley Boys. They're over. They're a big deal. DDP, people. DDP. Booker T, RVD, and the Dudleys. I would have much rather that been your team in the deciding fucking thing than it be Team WWE or WWF 2.0. Like I think you nailed it right. Like the biggest blunder in wrestling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I don't know if anybody listens to the Wrestle Talk guys. They're a good group of guys. Ollie's fucking hilarious if you know him. But they're the ones that did like the 3-hour thing on it. And I'm gonna try to pull up some points for our show 2 weeks from now, and spend some time on it. But Randy, do you remember any of that time and biggest blunders to you?
So obviously Johnny kind of stole my thunder in the sense that I was going to be like, it's me, it's DDP. Like they it's bad. I still actually remember the whole damn entrance. And of course, every time he came on the screen, it was just a big toothy ass grin. But yeah, that to me, that was like the worst thing they could have done. But also I understand basically Vince was putting his guys over versus everybody else, versus anybody from WCW. And I think that was a huge mistake because, like, obviously nowadays when we see wrestlers jump ship, whether it's TNA, AEW, WWE, they all do get their time to shine. Like recently with WWE, Penta winning the Intercontinental Championship, like that. But also utilizing Danhausen to curse Mysterio there to lose the belt. Like, so it's like it's like they've learned from their mistakes from the past, especially from this whole invasion angle from back in the day.
Oh, sorry, that's another point. That's a point. You just reminded me of a point because I just thought about Triple H's booking right now. You know who was helping with booking back then that I didn't know about? Triple H. Ah!
But
he wasn't as involved as people would lead to believe now.
No. And they made clear, the Wrestle Talk guys made that clear, but they said that's when he really started to get his feet wet a little bit on. He wasn't able to obviously say yay or nay to things, but adding his 2 cents on.
He started attending production meetings around that point.
Yeah, they gave him credit for something. I don't remember what it is, but it's one of the bad things. And I'm going to have to go back and search up what it was. But, oh, my God. Oh, I need a Tylenol.
But, yeah, I think if some of the, old pros from WCW had actually come over, see, that's the problem. I don't know how they would have booked Sting. And that would have been like, for me, that would have probably lost a lot of interest in my end.
It doesn't matter what his name is.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, of course, we got to see Sting in WWE, and
God, we're not.
Yeah,
no.
His run in AEW is what it should have been in WWE because he is the icon. But that's the thing. They fumbled so much that they didn't. And the thing is, they had good star power. Even with eventually Booker T finally getting over. Like, it took so long for some of these guys to get over. By that time, that whole invasion angle was done. But that's the problem. These guys had to get over on their own. WWE did them no favors, and that's to me that's the biggest blunder is they didn't give these guys a proper boost. They didn't book them well. These guys had to just claw to get over with the fans to the point of like, hey, these WCW guys aren't that bad. They're actually pretty good, and but that's why that failed so miserably. And what we have today, we're seeing with all 3 major brands right now. Guys are getting over on their own. They're getting booked well, getting booked better than they should be, than they were in previous companies. And I mean, I think that's a good outlier in the sense of learning from your past mistakes.
It's not. I just lost my train of thought. Dustin, did you watch any wrestling back then, or are we good to move on?
No, I mean, I watched WWF back in the day, in the Attitude Era. I remember a lot of the WCW, WWE, or WWF stuff back in the day, but I can't really. it's not my area of expertise that I'm aware of. I know like the stuff with Diamond Dallas Page coming in and stalking Taker's wife and stuff like that. So I saw bits and pieces of it, but not enough to have an informed opinion.
So let's do some homework. 2 weeks from now, when this panel of 4 comes back, I want you to bring 3 random points with you about the WCW invasion. Here's another thing, not just WCW related, but Alliance related. And it was in the Wrestle Talk thing, is there were some people saying that RVD couldn't work. RVD couldn't work.
The
Yeah.
sad part is I can imagine the people saying that. I'll bet they kind of talk like this and their teeth were a little bigger than the inside of their mouth. And I don't mean Jim Ross.
I think they named some names, but I don't remember. Really quickly before we go, because horror movie lover mentioned, did you see my comments? Let's pull this one up. Johnny, can you read this for me? It's really small on my screen.
Do you know if someone big besides PAX is coming for? Do you know if something big besides the panel is coming for Halloween at PAX? I'm assuming is the heart of this question.
I don't know. PAX is not a really big thing, so haven't heard anything in particular. But like, also, I don't know how much more you want to see. Like, between what us or like Slash and Cast have said about the game and then the stuff they've actually revealed, like we have gotten quite a bit. You know, the only thing I think they need to show a little bit of is the single player, in my opinion. And even then, I don't want to see a bunch of it because I want to experience it for myself, right? So, I'm sure there's more coming, but I'm hesitant to guess how much, and we haven't heard anything lately.
Okay, we'll get something. What that something is anyone's guess.
Hopefully we see Dr. Loomis soon. Like, game-wise, I mean, we already have seen his character model, and we know he's the guy that narrates the whole single-player mode. So, and then also they haven't announced how Kane Hodder is involved with the game. Do you know how he is exactly? Even though he hasn't been given a lot of credit for it, he did do some stuff involving Michael Myers in the game.
That's with a mocap, didn't he?
Yeah, a little bit of it. He's not the one getting a bunch of
No.
I think it's Tyson something or something like that. And then obviously Nick Castle did a few small things that they're clinging to and trying to make it to be more than it actually was. Where have we heard that story today? Johnny, take us home.
All right, guys. I hope each and every one of you enjoyed tonight's episode. I certainly know I did. That was a fun little side quest there at the end that I did not expect. Of all of the possible topics of conversation for you to bring from the wrestling world, the invasion was not even in like my top 100. So
I'm mad because I don't remember enough of the points, and now I got to go back and re-listen to it and write some of it down.
Well, you know what? That works because we did go a little long on the beginning, so we didn't quite have as much time as we would have liked anyway. So, you know, this works out better. Whets the appetite. So it gives me and Randy something to think about until the next episode, so we can, you know, sort of figure out our own thoughts and opinions on this time period. I'll admit, I'm probably going to go back.
Maybe
and
we
watch
can go
some
down
episodes.
a bigger rabbit hole and start to book what our own invasion, our own realistic invasion, would have looked like back in the day.
Don't test me. I'm gonna be like looking now. I'm gonna have to check and see if there's a 2001 invasion era mod pack for TEW 9, which I bought a few weeks ago. So yeah, I may actually have to do that. That's a side quest that might actually happen on Twitch. I'm looking for a TEW game to stream over there. So that is something I do plan to do in the not too distant future myself. All right, guys, that is going to do it for tonight's episode. I hope everyone had fun. I certainly know I did. Randy, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can find me over on X at Giggity Giles. I personally have been taking a break from doing Sports Brew just because football season's over. But with free agency in full swing and March Madness right around the corner, I'm sure very soon I will be joining them again. But if you don't do it for me. If you guys enjoy people just bullshitting, drinking, talking shit in general, and have even a small love for sports, Google Sports and Brew, and you should be able to find the home on Podbean, no problem.
And Dustin, where can we find you?
You'll find me here, there, every
Wait a
so
minute, hold on.
often.
I know that ending.
I was gonna steal Johnny's ending from him. No, you'll find me here while I can. I might have to take a little hiatus when the kid shows up, but I will stay around, whether I'm in the chat modding or guest appearing here and there. I appreciate being on. It was a great show, and I enjoyed the discussion, even though didn't know the wrestling part as much as I should. But if we ever talk some Attitude Era, I got some good stuff, lots of memories from that. So,
And Sean.
You cannot find me at Jamie Lee Curtis's fan club. But you can find me here next week, 9 p.m. On an episode I'm sure Zach will be hosting, and then we'll be back the following week with you. And we are trying to plan some Patreon stuff. Johnny, Randy, and I were on a roll with that. I proposed an idea to Randy a couple days ago that needs some work and some more fleshing out. But all I'll say is the 50th anniversary of A New Hope is next year, and maybe there's something we can do to celebrate that with some long form content. What about you? Where can we find you? Even though we know where you're going with this, thanks to Dustin.
Oh, you can find me here, there, and everywhere. I have a couple Twitch streams planned for this week. One of them, like I said, I'm going to start a TW game. I have no idea which one. Somewhere in there's a mod pack I'm going to find that excites me and I want to book. So you will actually get a chance to experience me at the booking table, booking shows and events and hiring and firing and all of that fun stuff that involves managing a pro wrestling company. And, WWE 2K26 GM mode, haven't started that yet, plan to. And MLB is out as of today, I think. Pre-early access was on Friday, so I have been playing a bit of that horribly badly, as I oft do, playing baseball games. But a couple streams this week over on twitch.tv/pros before pros. So for all of us here in the Fandom Empire family, and all of us here on the House of the Empire show, we bid you adieu. We say good night, so long, farewell, all those fun things we can do. And we'll see you next week right here for another episode of House of the